This week in IT, Microsoft looks 5 years into the future of Windows, Copilot gets Chat GPT-5 Smart Mode, and the ability to shift group control from on-premises Active Directory to the cloud is now in preview. So stay tuned for all the latest. Welcome to This Week in IT, the show where I talk about everything connected to Windows, Microsoft 365 and Azure. This week there was a video that surfaced from Microsoft recorded by David Weston, who's Vice President of Enterprise and OS Security at Microsoft. This was essentially looking 5 years into the future at 2030 and him imagining what he thinks Windows will be like. Now, why specifically 2030? Well, because this is when a whole load of things are set to come together and really affect the way that we use computers from day to day. So general artificial intelligence, quantum computing, and ambient computing. He thinks that the way we interact with computers is going to be fundamentally different. Sometimes this is known as ambient computing, where the context of input is just greater. If you think at the moment, in general, we use a keyboard and a mouse for computer input. It doesn't really understand much else about the context of what's happening. So he's saying that AI and ambient computing will go hand in hand together in Windows, and that we'll be doing a lot more work with audio and what you can actually see on the screen. Now, of course, these things are already starting to happen in Copilot. You've got Copilot Vision. You can also speak to Copilot, and these things will be more mature and will be more common. And he thinks that we'll be using these more and more. AI agents will become a fundamental part of the operating system, and you can think of things like an AI agent being able to automate workflows within Windows, maybe getting all the right windows and applications lined up for a particular process that you perform. A lot of time I'm spending, looking for windows, looking for information. Wouldn't it be great if AI could actually understand the task we're doing and be able to get all the information ready, all the applications in place automatically so that you don't have to do it. He also thinks that AI will enable small businesses to have the same level of security that only large enterprises can afford today. And I think that's likely to play out as AI can be used to automate a lot of the threat hunting, a lot of the analysis that security operations centers do today for large organizations. And hopefully that will be more democratic in the future and be available to a wider range of organizations. He also talks a little bit about quantum computing, and I wasn't really aware of this, but he says that quantum computing ready encryption is already built into Windows 11 today. And there's a lot of push here within the video that you should keep upgraded with software and hardware, and this is the only way you'll be able to stay secure. And he makes the point, in 5 years' time, when quantum computing is more accessible, once we reach that point, it's going to completely change the security landscape. Now, he's not wrong about that, of course, but it's in Microsoft's interest that you continue to upgrade hardware and software to make sure you get the latest protections, is what they're saying. But of course, that requires you to spend money. And he's really saying, well, we want you to upgrade faster. We want you to do it more often. We want it to be easier, and that they're changing that story. And hopefully that organizations will be able to iterate new hardware and software much faster than they have in the past. Because he points out that a lot of the work that IT admins do is patching, upgrading, this kind of thing, and he hopes that is all going to become much easier. He also mentions memory safety, because 70 to 75% of all patches are for vulnerabilities that involve buffer overruns, that kind of thing, faults that are connected to memory. Of course, there's a big push to start using more and more Rust, which is a memory safe language, in the kernel. That's already happening, and that's something we've talked about on the channel before. So this video, of course, it was kind of disguised as a vision into the future, but I kind of felt that it was more you should be thinking about upgrading to Windows 11, so trying to get people off of Windows 10 onto the latest version of the operating system, and that only goes hand in hand with hardware upgrades. A lot of the security features in Windows 11 require a particular level of hardware, a TPM chip, for instance, all sorts of other things. You've got the Pluton processor that Microsoft puts into certain PCs. Of course, you've got all the Copilot Plus stuff, which you have to have an MPU for. So there's a real push not just to upgrade the software, but they're saying you must be upgrading the hardware as well. If you imagine that most organizations tend to have a hardware refresh cycle of around 5 years, he's not saying anything specifically, but I would imagine that around the 3-year mark is more like the kind of goal they're aiming for here, because the landscape changes so much, especially in the security realm. Obviously, he's Vice President of Enterprise Security and OS Security, so his interest is to get you onto the latest version of everything to make sure that people using Microsoft's products are as secure as possible. Let me know what you think in the comments below about the future of Windows. Microsoft has talked about things like ambient computing in the past, and sometimes this is a solution without a problem. I'm not sure that I want to sit and talk to my computer all of the time, but I do think things like Copilot Vision could potentially be really useful if Microsoft can allay the privacy concerns around that. Of course, we have similar issues with Windows Recall, so I'm not sure about all of these contexts, but certainly the vision thing I think is something that could be really powerful. But before we go into the next story, I've got a quick favor to ask you. About 34% of the people who watched last week's video weren't subscribed to the channel. Now, as we go live today, we're on about 13,066 subscribers. I'd love it if we could push that up to 13,100 this week. So if you'd like to see these weekly news roundups from Petri.com, please subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to hit the bell notification to make sure that you don't miss out on the latest uploads. Microsoft announced this week that it's releasing a new feature called Entra ID Group Source of Authority. It's in preview mode. It should go to general availability sometime in September, and this is essentially to allow organizations to have more flexibility in how they manage groups that are synchronized from on-premises Active Directory into the cloud. So this is Entra ID, which was formerly Azure Active Directory. Now, when you set up synchronization using Azure AD Connect, or whatever they're calling it these days, I guess they've renamed it to Entra ID Connect Sync, I think. I guess that's the new name of this product. You essentially migrate, so you don't migrate, but you synchronize objects in on-premises Active Directory like users and groups into the cloud, but the source of authority remains Active Directory. So if you want to change group membership, you can only do it from your on-premises Active Directory, which means cloud-only users can't be members of those groups. Now, this technology is now being changed in the preview so that administrators will be able to change the source of authority from being on-premises Active Directory to Entra ID. Now, that sounds great, but Microsoft is warning that you should only do this if you no longer need that group in Active Directory. If that group is not being used and you're ready to go fully in on the cloud for that particular group, then at that point you can change the source of authority. So this is really a step towards deprovisioning Active Directory or cleaning up Active Directory groups on premises. So it's not going to be something that everybody is just able to jump on straight away and start working with. Now, in order to get this feature, you're going to need the latest version of Azure AD Connect, and you also will be able to migrate either several groups, multiple groups together, or just a specific group. And there will also be the option to restore or roll back group membership if things go wrong. They also announced this week that there's a new feature also in preview called Microsoft Entra Cross-Cloud Sync, and this is going to allow administrators to streamline the management of users across multiple tenants. So Microsoft is saying this is for maybe organizations or maybe for MSPs that want to streamline the management of users, I guess groups as well, across multiple Microsoft Cloud environments. So it will help organizations to enhance their consistency, security, and to lower administrative effort. It's likely that you've already heard that OpenAI has made Chat GPT-5 available. So this is the new model, the latest model, the upgrade from Chat GPT-4, which I think was released already quite a while ago now in 2023. There have been some small iterations on that, so this is quite a big step up. And this model is apparently better at doing things like getting a good grasp of deep context, simplifying jargon without losing accuracy, and handling multi-layered reasoning across domains. So OpenAI is saying that Chat GPT-5 is better at working with longer documents, mixing technical and creative tasks, and using multiple tools, so data analysis, chart generation. They're even saying there's better integration with things like Google, Gmail, and Google Calendar. Not quite sure about how that works exactly, but that's what they're saying as part of the press releases this week. Now, the interesting thing is that Copilot mode for their Edge browser, which I talked about last week, already has access to this Chat GPT-5 model. It's called Smart Mode. Now, it's interesting that you get this in Copilot mode for Edge, but you don't get it yet, at least I'm not seeing it yet, in the application, the Copilot application for Windows. So I'm assuming it will come, but it's already in Copilot mode if you're using Edge. So what exactly can you do with GPT-5 that was harder with GPT-4? So OpenAI is saying things like vibe coding work much better with this model, real-time reasoning, tool integration, as I said before. You can even create custom personas tailored to particular modes. For instance, if you want, I don't know, a legal advisor or a developer, you can make it sound, the tone of the conversation you can customize to those particular roles. They're also saying that GPT-5 is faster. So it's good for low latency writing, coding, customer support and analysis, and that it's more reliable, so that there are 80% less hallucinations. So I guess the proof will be in the pudding. We'll see whether that really works out. I've had a quick play around with it. It does seem to be a bit snappier and faster. I haven't done anything advanced with this yet, so we'll have to see how all of these claims really pan out. People are saying that this is not the big jump that we had from GPT-3 to GPT-4. It's a smaller iteration, but nevertheless, there are some quite significant things here. This is not the general artificial intelligence that everybody's racing towards. It still can't learn and think for itself. At least that's what Sam Altman from OpenAI is saying. But it's a major step in that direction. If you found this video useful, I'd really appreciate if you gave it a thumbs up, because it helps to get the video seen by more people and to grow the channel. I'm going to leave you with another video on the screen now about how Microsoft is changing search in Teams, but that's it for this week, and I'll see you next time.